On this day in history, we remember the remarkable individuals who shaped our world. Welcome to Who Died Today in History, where we honor their legacies. From artists to leaders, their impact lives on. If you find their stories meaningful, like, subscribe, and hit the bell to stay connected. James Garner, the beloved American actor known for his charm, integrity, and versatility, died of natural causes on July 19, 2014, at the age of 86. His death came after years of declining health following a stroke in 2008. Garner's passing marked the end of an era in American entertainment, one defined not by scandal or spectacle, but by authenticity, professionalism, and understated brilliance. Garner rose to fame in the 1950s with Maverick, a Western series that set him apart through his use of humor and wit rather than brute force. He later solidified his status as a television icon with the Rockford Files, where he played a private investigator who preferred negotiation over violence, an unconventional approach during a time when tough guy roles dominated the screen. His characters reflected a post-war America that was beginning to embrace nuance, skepticism, and a growing disillusionment with traditional authority figures. His death, though natural, was symbolic of the quiet fading of a Hollywood generation rooted in decency and subtlety. Garner never chased stardom with flamboyance. Instead, he embodied a kind of everyman heroism, one who made morality and restraint compelling. His life and career stood in contrast to a modern era increasingly shaped by celebrity culture, where personas often eclipse principles. The immediate reaction to his passing was one of deep respect. Tributes poured in from fans, fellow actors, and directors who praised not just his talent, but his humility and work ethic. His death didn't shift global history, but it did prompt a cultural reckoning with the kind of heroism we value, reminding us that power can lie in patience, kindness, and quiet resistance to injustice. Garner had, after all, marched for civil rights and challenged unfair contracts in Hollywood, all while maintaining a dignified public image. James Garner's legacy endures through his performances, which continue to resonate with audiences seeking depth and decency. He is immortalized not through controversy, but through the roles that subtly reshaped American masculinity, making room for vulnerability, humor, and conscience. His passing reminds us that how one lives is as vital to legacy as how one dies. In honoring Garner, we reflect on our collective longing for integrity in figures of influence. Through film, remembrance, and reverence, we affirm that true greatness often arrives not with noise, but with grace. Skye McCole Bartusiak, a promising young actress best known for her role as Mel Gibson's daughter in The Patriot, died unexpectedly on July 19, 2014, at the age of 21. Her death, ruled an accidental overdose involving multiple prescription drugs, shocked many who had watched her grow up on screen. While Skye had reportedly experienced seizures in the years prior, her death underscored a broader issue haunting her generation: the silent, often hidden epidemic of prescription drug misuse and mental health struggles among young people in the entertainment industry. Bartusiak began her acting career as a child, starring in both major films and television series such as 24 and Don't Say a Word. She possessed a rare emotional depth, able to convey heartbreak and innocence with quiet power. But like many child actors before her, she faced the difficult transition from childhood fame to adult life, an often treacherous journey within an industry that offers little protection for its youngest stars. The immediate aftermath of her passing prompted reflection and grief from fans and industry peers alike. Though her name was not yet among the Hollywood elite, her death reignited conversations around mental health, the pressure of early fame, and the need for greater support systems for young performers. In an era increasingly defined by awareness of invisible struggles, Skye's death served as a painful reminder that outward success can mask profound inner battles. Though her career was brief, it left a lasting impression. Her portrayal of young Susan in The Patriot remains one of the most poignant child performances of its time, remembered for the heartbreaking moment when she breaks her silence to beg her father not to leave. That single scene, raw and unforgettable, became her legacy, a reflection of the emotional authenticity she brought to her craft. Skye McCole Bartusiak's death speaks to humanity's struggle with vulnerability behind fame. It reveals how power, when placed in the hands of youth without protection, can become a burden. We commemorate her not through statues or biographies, but through the lasting resonance of her performances, which continue to evoke empathy, sorrow, and admiration. In remembering Skye, we are reminded that mortality often arrives without warning, but memory, especially when grounded in truth and talent, endures. Her story challenges us to protect the gifted, to listen beyond applause, and to honor not only what was lost, but what was shared. Rutger Hauer, the Dutch actor revered for his intense screen presence and philosophical depth, died on July 19, 2019, at the age of 75, after a short illness. His death from natural causes was quiet, much like the man himself, modest in real life, despite a film legacy filled with powerful, enigmatic characters. While not a global headliner at the time of his passing, Hauer's death resonated deeply within the film community, especially among fans of science fiction and European cinema, where his influence had long taken root. Hauer rose to international fame in the 1980s, most memorably as Roy Batty in Blade Runner, 1982. In that role, he delivered one of cinema's most iconic monologues, his improvised Tears in Rain speech, meditating on the nature of life, memory, and mortality. That performance, both chilling and deeply human, came to define not only Hauer's career, but also the existential undertones of science fiction in a Cold War era filled with technological anxiety and philosophical introspection. His death in 2019 reflected the cultural moment's shifting values, a renewed appreciation for stories that blend spectacle with introspection. In an industry often dominated by loud blockbusters, Hauer's passing reminded audiences of the quieter power of layered storytelling and moral ambiguity. His characters were rarely conventional heroes. Instead, they wrestled with meaning, identity, and justice, echoing a generation's uncertainty in an increasingly digitized, dehumanized world. The immediate consequence of his death was a wave of tribute pieces, retrospectives, and re-examinations of Blade Runner and his other acclaimed performances in films like The Hitcher, Lady Hawk, and Soldier of Orange. His death did not shift historical events, but it reinvigorated cultural discussions around the nature of mortality, especially poignant given how often he played characters confronting death or artificial life. Rutger Hauer's passing serves as a poetic echo of the very themes he embodied on screen. That memory, however fleeting, is the true mark of life. He is immortalized not just through film, but through the emotional truths his characters expressed, often more real than the world they inhabited. In art, we honor him with every scene revisited, every line remembered. His legacy is a reminder that while life may fade like tears in rain, what we leave behind, ideas, emotions, stories, can transcend time. Garry Marshall, the legendary American director, writer, and producer, died on July 19, 2016 at the age of 81 due to complications from pneumonia following a stroke. His death, though natural, marked the end of a career that had profoundly shaped American television and film for over 5 decades. From the golden age of sitcoms to modern romantic comedies, Marshall's work reflected the evolving values of American culture: family, humor, optimism, and the enduring belief in second chances. Marshall first rose to prominence in the 1970s, creating iconic television series like Happy Days, Laverne and Shirley, and Mork and Mindy. These shows, lighthearted and nostalgic, offered comfort during an era rocked by political scandal and social upheaval. His work often served as a cultural balm, reminding audiences of simpler times and the enduring strength of human connection. Later he found continued success in film, directing box office hits like Pretty Woman and The Princess Diaries, films that combined humor, heart, and hope in a way that became his signature. His passing prompted widespread tributes from Hollywood and beyond. Actors, writers, and directors praised his warmth, generosity, and deep respect for storytelling. While his death did not dramatically shift the trajectory of film or television, it did close a chapter on an era of entertainment defined by earnestness and emotional accessibility. At a time when media was becoming increasingly fragmented and edgy, Marshall's legacy reminded audiences of the enduring appeal of stories rooted in kindness and joy. Marshall's death also reflected the loss of a rare kind of creative figure, one who excelled behind the scenes yet remained beloved in front of the camera. Known for his brief but memorable acting roles and his unmistakable Bronx-accented voice, Marshall became a symbol of the creative spirit that drives the entertainment world. Collaborative, humble, and heartfelt. In remembering Garry Marshall, we confront the idea that influence isn't always revolutionary. It can also be nurturing, consistent, and quietly transformative. We immortalize him through the laughter and warmth his work continues to bring, the generations of actors and creators he mentored, and the emotional truth that great storytelling at its best makes us feel seen and understood. His passing reminds us that mortality may end a life, but not a legacy rooted in joy. Cécile Aubry, the French actress, author, and television writer, died on July 19, 2010, at the age of 81, from natural causes after a long illness. Though her death was quiet and largely unpublicized outside of France, it marked the end of a unique career that bridged cinema, literature, and children's television, fields in which she left an indelible cultural imprint. Her passing reflected both the quiet dignity of her later years and the evolving nature of fame, particularly for women in post-war Europe. Aubry rose to stardom in the late 1940s, quickly becoming a sensation after her breakout role in Manon, 1949, which won acclaim at the Venice Film Festival. Her beauty and poise attracted international attention, including a brief stint in Hollywood, where she starred alongside Tyrone Power in The Black Rose, 1950. But unlike many of her contemporaries, Aubry chose to step away from the glamour of film at the height of her fame. She returned to France, focusing on writing and later creating Belle et Sébastien, a children's book and television series that became a beloved staple of French culture. Her death in 2010 came at a time when the entertainment industry was increasingly revisiting the contributions of women who had worked behind the scenes or whose public careers had not followed traditional trajectories. Aubry's choice to prioritize creativity over celebrity and storytelling over stardom reflected a quiet rebellion against the limited roles available to women in mid-20th century media. The immediate aftermath of her death was marked by warm tributes in France, particularly from those who had grown up watching her television programs or reading her books. While her passing did not shift global history, it underscored the importance of media created for children, stories that gently shaped values of kindness, courage, and empathy for generations. Cécile Aubry's legacy endures through her written work, adaptations of Belle et Sébastien, and the gentle wisdom woven into her stories. Her life reminds us that cultural influence is not always loud or dramatic. Sometimes it is soft and enduring, like a bedtime tale remembered years later. Her death speaks to our collective longing for stories that nurture rather than dazzle, and to the way we preserve memory through art that speaks across generations. In that sense, Aubry is quietly immortal. Mel Smith, the British comedian, writer, director, and actor, died suddenly on July 19, 2013, at the age of 60 from a heart attack. His passing came as a shock to many, as Smith had remained an enduring figure in British comedy for decades. His death, caused by natural yet sudden circumstances, highlighted broader health concerns often associated with the pressures of high-profile creative careers and the fast-paced entertainment industry of the late 20th century. Smith first found fame in the 1980s as one half of the comedy duo Smith and Jones, alongside Griff Rhys-Jones. Their show, Alas, Smith and Jones, was known for its razor-sharp wit and irreverent sketches, reflecting the social and political tensions of Thatcher-era Britain. Smith's humor often poked fun at authority and social convention, giving voice to a generation's skepticism and shaping the satirical tone of British comedy for years to come. As a performer and later director, with credits including the cult classic Bean, 1997, Smith helped bring British humor to international audiences, blending silliness with subversive intelligence. His death not only saddened fans, but also marked the fading of a comedic era that prized clever wordplay, character-based humor, and fearless satire. At a time when comedy was increasingly driven by internet trends and social media virality, Smith's passing symbolized a transition from collaborative, sketch-based television to the fragmented digital formats of the 21st century. The tributes that followed spoke to a deep affection not only for Smith's talents, but for the kind of comedy he represented: bold, thoughtful, and rooted in cultural critique. While Smith's death did not shift the course of history, it did amplify appreciation for his role in shaping the comedic landscape. Many revisited his sketches and films, reflecting on how comedy can both reflect and challenge societal norms. His voice, often booming with authority before delivering a punchline that undercut it, became emblematic of British satire at its best. Mel Smith's passing reveals how comedy, like all art, can be both a personal expression and a societal mirror. We immortalize figures like him through laughter, reruns, and the enduring sharpness of their words. His death is a reminder that while mortality may silence a voice, it cannot erase the echo of laughter shared across generations. Jeremy Kemp, the distinguished British actor known for his commanding presence and versatility on stage and screen, died on July 19, 2019, at the age of 84. He passed away peacefully from natural causes, concluding a long and quietly impactful career that spanned decades. His death, though not widely reported in mainstream headlines, marked the loss of a classic figure from a golden age of British acting, one whose work reflected the values of professionalism, restraint, and emotional depth in an era that prized subtlety over spectacle. Kemp gained early prominence in the 1960s with his role in the television series Z-Cars, a groundbreaking British police drama that brought realism and grit to the small screen. He later appeared in a series of acclaimed historical and war films, including The Blue Max, 1966, A Bridge Too Far, 1977, and The Winds of War, 1983. His portrayals often embodied the archetype of the stoic, principled officer or aristocrat, a reflection of mid-20th century Britain's fascination with duty, honor, and the lingering shadows of empire and conflict. His passing came during a time when audiences were increasingly reassessing cultural portrayals of masculinity and power. Kemp's characters, often emotionally reserved but morally complex, now seemed to represent a transitional figure, bridging the post-war stiff upper lip ethos with the emerging sensitivity of modern storytelling. His death reminded viewers of an era when gravitas and quiet strength defined heroism on screen, in contrast to the fast-paced, emotionally overt narratives common today. While Kemp's death did not alter the trajectory of cultural history, it invited renewed appreciation for a generation of actors who brought Shakespearean discipline to both television and film. Tributes from peers and fans alike emphasized his ability to convey depth with minimal words, a skill rooted in classical training and a deep respect for his craft. Jeremy Kemp's passing reflects humanity's enduring desire to connect with dignity in storytelling, to find truth in restraint. We immortalize figures like him not through tabloid remembrance or viral tributes, but through the lasting quality of their performances. In art, memory, and reruns, Kemp lives on, as a reminder that power can be quiet, elegance can be enduring, and mortality does not end a well-lived narrative. Ray Reardon, the Welsh snooker legend affectionately nicknamed Dracula for his widow's peak hairline and icy composure, passed away on July 19, 2024, at the age of 91 from natural causes. His death marked the quiet end of a long and storied life in sport, one defined not just by victories, but by his role in legitimizing and popularizing snooker at a time when it was transforming from smoky club pastime to primetime television spectacle. Reardon dominated the sport in the 1970s, winning 6 world championships between 1970 and 1978. His precision, psychological mastery, and strategic brilliance reflected the values of his era: patience, calculation, and showmanship laced with professionalism. At a time when British sport was often divided along lines of class and accessibility, Reardon, once a coal miner, embodied a working-class hero narrative, rising through grit and intellect rather than privilege or flamboyance. His passing was met with reverence from the snooker world and sporting community. Though he had long since retired from competition, Reardon remained an ambassador for the game, mentoring younger players and contributing to its development. His death, while not a cultural rupture on the scale of political or entertainment icons, amplified his legend within his discipline. In an age increasingly drawn to instant fame and flash, Reardon's life stood as a reminder of excellence earned slowly, through focus and discipline. The legacy he leaves behind is not just in trophies, but in the psychological depth he brought to snooker, a game where intellect often outweighs athleticism. His death encourages reflection on how sport can be both physical and philosophical, a stage for character as well as competition. Ray Reardon's passing reveals humanity's complex relationship with legacy. The idea that mastery in one domain, when approached with integrity, can leave an imprint far beyond the field or table of play. We immortalize such figures through memory and myth, in slow-motion replays and whispered lessons passed from one generation to the next. In honoring Reardon, we see how quiet determination can become a legend. His life teaches us that power need not be loud, and that memory, like a snooker match well played, is crafted shot by shot, with precision, patience, and purpose. Margaret Fuller, a pioneering American journalist, editor, and advocate for women's rights, died tragically in a shipwreck on July 19, 1850, at the age of 40. Returning to the United States from Italy, where she had covered the revolution and given birth to a child with her partner, the Italian nobleman Giovanni Osoli, Fuller, her husband, and their young son perished when the Elizabeth ran aground off Fire Island, New York. Only her body was never recovered. Her manuscript, detailing her experiences in Europe, was also lost to the sea. Her death was sudden and violent, cutting short the life of a woman who had, by the standards of her era, defied nearly every societal expectation. Fuller's passing reflected both the limitations and dangers faced by women who sought public lives in a patriarchal world. A brilliant thinker, she was the first female foreign correspondent for an American newspaper and the first woman allowed to use Harvard's library. Yet despite her trailblazing intellect, her unconventional family life, and her bold political writing, she struggled for acceptance in a society that saw women as suited only for domesticity. The consequences of her death were both immediate and long-lasting. She was mourned by contemporaries like Ralph Waldo Emerson and Horace Greeley, who recognized her as a vital force in American letters. Yet, because her major work in Europe remained unpublished and her personal life was scandalized by some for defying Victorian norms, her legacy was, for decades, muted. Still, Fuller's death amplified her legend. The image of a brilliant woman lost at sea, along with the final pages of her life's work, gave her a near-mythic aura. Over time, historians and feminists resurrected her contributions, recognizing Woman in the 19th Century, 1845, as a foundational feminist text. She became a symbol of unrealized potential, of how the tides of history can drown voices not yet fully heard. Margaret Fuller's passing reminds us of the fragility of progress and the peril that often faces those who dare to defy convention. We immortalize her not through monuments, but through the reclamation of her voice in scholarship, literature, and feminist thought. In remembering her, we reaffirm the power of ideas to endure beyond even the cruelest silencing. Her death, like her life, challenges us to confront how society values intellect, courage, and dissent, and how we choose to preserve those who dared to speak too soon and too bravely.